is all excited because we're going for a walk. And welcome to episode 6 of American Teens in Tehran in the 1970s. No, this is not episode 6, I'm sorry. Episode 8. I'll figure out what we talk about. I'll cut this out when we get down past everything. You go pee-pee? Alright, buddy. Let's go for a walk. Gotta make it all the way down. Hey, how you doing? Good, how are you all doing? Nope. Not there. Go all the way down. All the way down. Okay, now, what are we going to talk about today? Well, we left off at the bazaar, the very bizarre occurrence. The Grand Bazaar in Tehran, where we were actually in danger of being torn apart by a mob, a huge crowd, because of our own stupidity and lack of preparedness. And I'm going to interject here an article about current events in Iran with regard to things like head coverings and women's rights. A 22-year-old Mahsa Amini was arrested in Tehran for improperly wearing her hijab. She was placed in detention, where she was beaten into a coma and died 3 days later on September 16, 2022. Since then, an uprising of protests have taken place in solidarity with Mahsa. It's a nice fall day. Look at all the colors. It's absolutely beautiful. I had to get out here today again on one of these little walk and talk episodes. That's what we're doing here. I think that's what everybody calls them. All the YouTubers. No, not there. Not there. Keep going. You can do it. Keep going all the way down. No, not in his yard. Okay, up here. I can pick that up. Okay. You can go down here. Good boy. Find yourself a good spot. Okay, so, like I was saying, this is a beautiful fall day, and I wanted to take you all out with me on a walk with Loki so that we could get the next Tehran episode in. That's what we're doing. I'll have interjected the article about the protests currently in Iran, women's rights, the headscarf, and so on like that. So now we'll move on to the next part, which I'm not even sure what it is. Oh yeah, it's how we spent our summer. Yeah, our first summer in Tehran. So we were staying at, I think it was called the Tehran Persian Hotel or something. It's not one of the huge hotels like later on. I don't even know if the Aveen was built then. But there were other hotels that military diplomats and company people, private company people, would stay in. But this hotel, when we arrived there, was the primary hotel for diplomats and military personnel, especially officers and such. I think really anyone's assigned over there stayed in this hotel. I believe Jack Leonard stayed in this hotel as well. And probably a few others. This was not the big, huge hotels, but it was a very, very nice hotel. And like I said in a previous episode, it had burgundy or wine-colored carpet, Persian carpets, chandeliers, wide staircases up to the top, up to the, well, at least to the second or third floor, and then elevators would go up if you needed to go any further than that. It wasn't very high. I can't remember if it was 4 or 5 stories. It was not a very, very tall building compared to some of the others. And it was in the middle of downtown Tehran. And the only street I can remember in our journey to get there was the street called Takht Jamshid. I can remember a lot of streets. I remember the Gulf District, which was a small military facility, primarily recreational, officers club, NCO club, things like that. And some of the main offices for OSI, Air Force OSI, CID, the Provost Marshal's office, and some business offices and things were, as well as, the movie theater and pools, softball fields. That was all down on a place called Gulf District, which was off of Sultanatabad. Sultanatabad was North-South Street that went all the way from the edge of the mountain range, pretty much, the northern end of Tehran, down into possibly South Tehran. I can't remember how long that street is, but it's a very famous street. And the cross street we ended up living off of, which was literally the intersection 100 yards north of Gulf District, was called Dolat. Then we'd go about a couple of miles down Dolat, and our house, our villa, because that's what they were. They were beautiful 2-story, 3-story marble, everything. Just a beautiful, you couldn't afford military would never be put in a villa like that in the United States. And we couldn't have ever afforded one if the military wasn't footing the bill. But that's what they had to do with their families. My dad belonged to the Gendarmerie mission, Genmish, and was assigned as narcotics advisor and anti-terrorism advisor to the Shah of Iran, Pahlavi, the Pahlavi family. At the time, there's the ones who ruled Iran. It was a monarchy, of course. And anyway, back to what we did during the summer to keep ourselves busy. What's going on? Those trees are really agitated. I can't believe there's... Oh, here comes a wind or something. Yeah. Hopefully you won't hear all that. I've got the dead cat on the microphone, so hopefully it'll block off a lot of this wind. But anyway, summer. Summers in Tehran. Our first summer in Tehran. And the hotel, the only thing I want to really say about the hotel was their spaghetti. They had the most awesome white pasta because we didn't like the sauce. I don't think anybody did. As I recall, even Jack Leonard said that sauce was terrible. The meat sauce. So everybody took the buttered pasta with the herbs on it. Probably oregano and some Iranian herbs. But it was absolutely delicious. We ate that all the time when we ate at the hotel. There were other things we ate there. I think they had tried their hand at American hamburgers and stuff. Not that I cared. I wanted to learn and eat Iranian food, Persian food. The rest of the summer, most of the summer, we spent at Gulf District, at the pools, the officers club pool, watching fast pitch softball, the adults. The Genmish had their own team. It was very good. The officers club itself, oh man, talk about food. they had a steak. And that steak was so tender, but it wasn't just the steak, it was the mushroom sauce. I'll remind you, I was 13 when I got there, or barely. If I was 13 already, I think I had turned 13. And I remember the flavor. That's how good that mushroom sauce was. And anybody who's ever had that steak with mushroom sauce at Oak Club, I'm sure, would verify, would attest to the same thing. Look at these trees. That's why I came down this way. The Loki's Walk. It's just beautiful. Anyway, so that was the Officers Club. Later in life there in Iran, when I started advancing through my teen years, there are much more interesting stories about the Officers Club and the NCO Club. Drinking age in those days was 18 on base. Off base in the local economy, there was no drinking age. So you can imagine the teens. We always had a lot of fun and parties and things like that, just because, why not? It was available. And we were in a unique situation, not like in the United States where you had to stand in front of a 7-Eleven and pay some guy to go in there and buy you a case of beer or a 6-pack of beer. No, didn't have to do that here. So, and I was 13. I wasn't drinking then anyway. I wasn't ready to party. As a matter of fact, one of the things on Gulf District is the Teen Club. Now, the Teen Club was awesome. I played pool, as in billiards, and was okay at it. I was pretty decent. I wasn't great. But I'll tell you one thing I excelled at was ping pong. In fact, I excelled so much at ping pong, you couldn't really call it ping pong. You had to call it table tennis. And me and Bill Stover, Bob LaFlamme, Jack Leonard, Jeff Krevling, when we played ping pong, it was like being on a tennis court, and you had to be back 10 feet from the table just to be able to return the ball. So if you can imagine, fast-paced, very hard-moving ping pong balls. Very fast game. I loved it. And, I mean, I've been tumbling and just like darting for it and diving for balls just like you would on a tennis court. That was a little crazy. Luckily, there was a lot of room to do that. And probably what developed that skill, besides it just kind of coming natural, was we had a ping pong table at our house. And of course, the people who played there, once again, were all the ones I just mentioned and more. And the only thing bad about that table is that our helper around the house, they called them houseboys back in those days. Not a very endearing term nowadays. It would be met with a lot of politically correct criticism to call him a houseboy. But that's what they were called then. His name was Hassan. And I'll tell you what, we loved that guy. And I think we hired him from either the Beauvays or our partners, our sponsor family. And for the life of me, I just can't remember their name. My sister knows it. I'll maybe post it in the comments. And anyhow, Hassan was with us for years. For the entire time we were there the first time. I think the second time we came over there outside of the military, we had somebody else. I think he was off doing something else or was hired by someone else. And people won't give him up because he's incredible, an incredible cook. He kept the house immaculate. The only thing he didn't do is didn't understand you can't water the ping pong table. It was made of pressboard, and he would clean it by getting that garden hose out and completely covering it. Let's go this way, Loki. Let's go this way. And soaking it with water, and of course it ended up so warped that I literally could play ping pong with myself by the time we got to the end of the second summer there. That would have been 1972. So here it is, 1971. I'm telling you these stories. Where is my notes? I got the mushroom sauce. See, I've got some notes written down here on like a, what do you call it? A teleprompter. It's actually a teleprompter program, but I'm not actually writing out my complete narrative, just some bullets. And I covered the white pasta at the hotel, the Officers Club steaks, the Officers Club pool. That's where we used to swim a lot. And I can't remember which summer that I started lifeguard training, but I started junior lifeguard training very young. It may have been that year, 1971, and then it just continued lifeguard training whenever I was in Iran, for the each summer. Now another thing they offered besides pool and ping pong at the teen club was foosball. Oh man, foosball was a big thing. Back then in the 70s it was a big thing anyway. But foosball, we'd come home and probably kick everybody's ass in foosball, because these are the things, that's all we did. That's what we did. And we became very, very proficient at all these sports. Played air hockey as well. I wasn't always a fan of air hockey. To me, just slamming the little puck back and forth, but a lot of people like it. And I went over the fast pitch softball. Now, one of the bad things about fast pitch softball was the first time I ever seen anybody die in front of me. And one of the players, I think it was a Genmish player, was circling third base and collapsed. I believe he had a heart attack. Collapsed at third base and never recovered. It was horribly sad. It was, everybody was traumatized because it was a tight-knit family. The whole organization, all the families. And so anyway, now the next deaths I would witness in Iran were much more violent and much more notorious and nefarious intent. But we'll go over that when we get to them, because those didn't start, I don't think, until, well, actually, there was an incident, I think, in 1972 or 1973, before we left the first time, and then came right back. But I'll get to that when I get to it. This is all attempting to be in chronological order of things that I can remember that occurred in Iran. Now, what else do we got here? Okay, so again, the softball. I played, that's one thing I did get involved in very early, besides the junior lifeguard training. Skiing. Everybody learned how to ski in Iran. What an opportunity we had. You don't have opportunities like that very often to go to some of the best skiing in the world, which was actually in the Alborz Mountains in Iran. There were 3 resorts that I knew of. One was Abali, which was the basic, which was really a beginner's resort. Then there was Dazin, which had advanced slopes, and then there was Shimshak, which I think was, I never went there, but I think it was an ultra advanced slopes. I only went to Abali at first, and then we spent the rest of our time with ski clubs and teen clubs and stuff, and people just wanting to go up there at Dazin. And that's where I learned how to ski. I became pretty good at it after I was taken to the top of the advanced slope by my buddies, Bill Stover, who told me, "Oh yeah, you got this, man." And he took me up at the top of the advanced slope, and I came down hard. So hard I thought I had broke my shin. I broke my leg in half. I didn't. It was just horribly sprung. Took me a couple weeks to recover, but when I recovered and came back to the slopes, I knew how to ski. I was actually pretty good. And I got better and better over the years. That's how I learned to ride a motorcycle, and that'll come along in part of my stories as well. The hard way. That's how I learned how to do everything pretty much. The hard way. The school of hard knocks. Getting injured. Should have been dead in some cases. One motorcycle accident, which we'll get to later on. I think a second tour in Iran will illustrate that perfectly. So, okay, so I also joined baseball teams. I was on, when I first got there, I was on the Clippers, Little League Baseball. I loved that. I played Clippers until I was no longer eligible, which was the next summer, and had to move on to, I think it was the Sparks, or 13 and above. Over 13 or something like that had to be on a higher league team. But my favorite team, my favorite team, and my favorite year and a half or so for playing was with the Clippers. Or probably the first year. So that was pretty much our summers. We had a lot to do. We spent a lot of time at the pool, skiing in the winter. Although I listed that while I'm sitting here doing a narrative on our first summer there, but that was actually, of course, winter. That winter. The teen club. Oh, and the teen club dances. That was another big event. The teen club had dances almost every weekend. But when I was 13 and 14, I was not ready for that. I don't think I was confident to dance until I was like 15. And I'll tell you who. I'll be honest and tell you who got me on the dance floor. And we actually won a dance contest. My first time on a dance floor. But that's coming later. I may have to ask her permission to mention her in this video.